This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk with our Sunday Stream of Consciousness show. Lots to talk about in the NFL today. Two upsets. I guess upsets if you look at the lines in the divisional games yesterday. We'll certainly look at that, talk about some of the stories around those games, talk about today's games. We'll talk about even a couple of things from last week probably that make sense. Good morning to everybody on Roku. You'll see this at noon today. We continue our live broadcast at 9 a.m. You'll see this at noon today. Welcome and thank you to all the groups that will let me share this. You've been very good this week. Especially my vlog has gotten some really good reception. So, and good morning to everybody in the room today. We got some early birds today. Anthony Price, good morning. Carlos, kicking game, like you said. Special teams is important in these games. We'll get into it as we said. Good morning, Alan. How are you? Carlos, you said good. You make your first comment before you say good morning. Good morning, Carlos. How are you? I'm trying to get my light right here today. Hopefully my sound's good. Good morning, Billy Pulver. How are you? And Kenny Gifford is in early. You know, look at. We'll dive right into this. Tannehill, look at. I'm not sure about that comment. I think I saw that in a text last night. We'll talk more about that. We'll get into all this. Yeah, goodbye, Weiner. I agree. Look at. Let's start with the Green Bay game last night. Let's get a. And we'll have Mark Mancini on later. We'll talk about these games a little bit. I'm going to talk today about mostly football. So I want to keep you guys involved. We'll go through all your comments. We'll talk about the games from yesterday. Got a couple comments on the games from Sunday last week that we didn't get a chance to chat about. And of course, the games will be played today. And also, I'm going to get into a little Major League Baseball news. There might be some lockout news. I got to check a story that I came across this morning. I do want to talk about the Hall of Fame voting. I'm going to tell you who I would have voted for and why I believe some guys should be in that have been kept out. Not because I think they're good people or anything of the sort, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna let these. We're gonna talk about this. I'll get to your comments. So you got some good comments. Keep them coming. So if I haven't put your comment up right away, sometimes I can't get to every one of them because some of you guys, like Carlos, are commenting a lot, which is good. But I can't get to each and every one of them. But they're important to me, and they're important to the show. They keep the flow going. I like it a lot. So let's get into last night's game. This game was I guess I was on Mac and Jack this morning, had a little technical difficulty, so hopefully the sound and everything's okay this morning. I had a little difficulty getting in there, but when we got in, I made a comment that there's no way the 49ers should win this game. And Mac had said, well, the better team won. Look at it. There's no way the 49ers were a better football team than the Packers last night or throughout the season. But their special teams made two big plays that won the game for them. Now, you had to go out and execute and kick that field goal at the end. That's fine. The Packers' offense did not play great, and Rodgers wasn't great after the first drive. But it was special teams, and Carlos did talk about it, and we talk about I don't always get into it here necessarily, but most shows when I'm talking game previews, often when I do my New England Patriot preview with Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat on the Mac and Jack show on Sundays, special teams are huge, huge. Troy Aikman said last night before the game even started that the game would be determined on a special teams play because these were the two worst ranked teams in special teams the entire season. And there's no way the 49ers were a better team than Green Bay last night. Their special teams won the game for them, which is fine. That's the way football goes. The better team doesn't always win. And we'll get into it on the Cincinnati side in a little while. But, all things considered, I didn't even bring up the stats from last night's game. I was going to do that. I never did. Let me bring them up real quick here. It's just Jimmy G did not play well. Jimmy G, when the 49ers had the few opportunities that they had last night, was not good. He's going to have a tough time next week. 11 and 19, 131 yards. Passing rating was 57. Now, Deebo Samuel's brought a great dimension to that team since he's gotten healthy, and they're using him a lot in the running game and in the passing game, obviously. But again, the numbers don't really show the influence that he had on that game last night. Aaron Rodgers was really throwing the ball. I think he targeted one, maybe two wide receivers besides Devontae Adams. So everybody knew where he was going with the football, especially after that first drive. So let's get into some of your comments real quickly. Where do we show up? Rodgers showed his true colors. I've said this argument for a long time. My problems with Aaron Rodgers are not his play on the football field necessarily. I do think there's times he tries to make great plays where there's easier ones that are in front of him. But Aaron Rodgers is, a good football. He's a great quarterback. He did not play great last night. His numbers, he was 20 of 29 for 225 yards, which is why you can't just look at the stats. No touchdown passes for him last night. And a lot of those stats were built up early in the game. The 49er defense played well. Aaron Jones was phenomenal in the passing game last night out of the backfield. And Devontae Adams was very effective as well. But Aaron Rodgers, I got my problems. We're going to get into we'll get into Tannehill in a little bit, Carlos, because I don't necessarily agree with that comment, and I don't think it would have had any effect in the game, but we'll get into that. I think we already did this, so let's move on. Special teams has been not say good morning to you, Rick. I think I did. If I didn't, good morning. Special teams has been a Packers kryptonite all year. Worst ranked team in the NFL, and by the way, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 49ers were second. The second worst ranked. So that was the key to the game. I'm not going to say, look, all that matters at the end of the day is who won the game. But you can't tell me the 49ers necessarily outplayed the Packers. They outplayed them on two huge plays. So, which way is it? First you said kicking, then you said more running. No, he was talking about two different games. To be fair to Carlos, he was talking about two different games, which we're going to try to stick to one for the moment. Anthony Price, 49ers. What did the people should have double team Cobb? 49ers did what they should have done. They took Cobb out of the game. I think Cobb only had one target all night, no catches, just coming back from an injury. So we don't know what that effect might have been. But taking them out of the game, which is really the smart thing to do, almost let Aaron Jones win the game for them on their own. Now, they did control the running game really well, which I think was as big a factor in this game, Alan. And look, when I say the better team probably didn't win last night, I'm not going to tell you that Green Bay's head and shoulders above the 49ers. Well-coached game in my mind, Carlos, by the way, by the 49ers staff and one Kyle Shanahan, which I'm sure you'll find a way to refute. The 49ers bend but don't break, right? I don't even know that they bent all that many times in the second half. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but we'll certainly bring that comment back around if you would, Alan, for sure. The kicking game for Packers versus Allen. Yeah. It's funny because Allen, who blocked that punt, I don't remember who returned it for a touchdown, but he got burned, if I'm not mistaken. Allen was a guy who got burned by Aaron Jones on the drive before. Again, which didn't amount to a whole lot of nothing. Everybody said special teams, by the way. Rick, just be clear. It's not, I'm all for, lively debate, but let's not, I said special teams as well. Troy Aikman said special teams before the game last night. Everybody knows special teams. Everybody should know special teams are a huge part of winning football formulas. Really good teams almost always have good special teams. Championship caliber football teams, not just teams that are over the Packers 13-4. You go back and look over it, and again, I'm sorry if I keep referencing the Patriots dynasty, but I will, because that is in my mind, the blueprint for how to be champions. And special teams are always good and always underappreciated, and they never get their due until it comes up in a game like this last night. And it's very important. And Carlos did talk about special teams on Friday. We'll go back to that game a little. Let's stay on good coaching on both winning teams. You know what? I will say this: Kyle Shanahan outcoached LaFleur last night. LaFleur. Again, I'm sure there's comments that can be made about that. Two bad coaches. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're both good football coaches. You look at the stat line, the Packers special teams counted for 10 of the 13 points the 49ers scored. Well, you could say all 13 if you want to just count the scoring, because the field goals were also special teams related, right? They didn't get any blocks. Debo returned, set up the field goal, and blocked punt went for 6. And 2 field goals. So special teams really accounted for all the points, if you want to do it that way. At least got an assist, right? If there were such a thing. And both defenses did play good. The defense in both games was really good, which we'll get to the Cincinnati game. We'll go back and forth a little bit once we finish up here. Let's stay on San Francisco, the Green Bay for a minute. The defense on both sides was good. And if you like good, look at a bit more old-fashioned football. I mean, there was still a lot of passing, especially in the Bengals game by Burrow. These were games for you. I enjoyed these games. Some people say they were horribly played and not exciting. I thought it was exciting football. Both games were close. I go back to I'll make a Patriots reference, because again, these are games that stick in my mind. You go back to the Super Bowl against the Rams, and if you remember, and you guys may feel the same way, I don't know. Everybody said how boring a game it was. Well, I don't necessarily agree. When defenses are playing good football, forcing bad football out of the offenses, which we have to take into consideration sometimes when we talk about bad offensive play, which I will do from time to time myself. That game wasn't boring a few years ago with the Rams and Patriots. It was a close game. One-score game the whole time. Good defensive play. So yesterday, you got a lot of good defensive play. Jimmy G doesn't have to be great, but when he wins in a game, listen, I would disagree here a bit. Jimmy G doesn't have to be great. But Jimmy G can't make some of the decisions he made last night. That interception he threw near the goal line yesterday, throwing to Kittle, cannot happen. The only thing he couldn't do there is turn the ball over. That's the only thing he couldn't do. Because you've got to come away with points. That was the end of his first half, if I believe, and then or near the end of the first half. You can't do that. So Jimmy G gets bailed out with his bad play and bad decision making, gets bailed out by the special teams last night and the defense. Again, I'm probably putting too much emphasis on those two special team plays because the San Francisco defense was very good last night. Packers inside the 20. It's a good point, Kenny. And this is not – Aaron Rodgers is usually very good in the red zone. So I'll give the 49ers credit on defense there. But I've seen a lot of this, and we're going to get to Cincinnati in a second. But I see the same thing out of Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati a lot. I love their moxie. I love the different weapons that they have and different ways they can beat you. I like their defense. I love their quarterback. But you got to put the ball in the end zone more when you're in the red zone, and that's their big problem as well. I'm breaking my own rule and moving on to a different game, which we'll get to in a second. We got a lot of time today. So I didn't have Jim Barringer in today. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Jim. We'll get you next week, and we'll catch up on some hockey. But there's just so much football to cover today, and I want to get to some baseball before Mark comes in. Cobb had no targets. One target last night, actually, Alan, and no catches. And he wasn't targeted, I don't think, until like the fourth quarter one time. Rodgers has thrown the ball to everybody all year, and last night two guys, because he did throw the ball to Devontae Adams a lot, and he threw the ball a lot to Aaron Jones. They both had 9 catches. But only 2 other guys caught passes last night. Mercedes Lewis fumbled one of them. So, a big turnover there, too. Again, the Packers kept shooting themselves in the foot. Well, again, everybody's without somebody now, Alan. So, again, I don't disagree with your point, but you could find guys that are look at Bosa probably wasn't at full strength last night and had a very good game last night, I thought. Well, you can ask you can ask him how important Vinatieri is for sure, but it wasn't just him. Patriots have been very good, and it's not just punts and kicks, it's coverage as well, right? And Patriots have always been very good. Matthew Slater, one of the best special team players in the history of football. He's a guy that I say should be in a Hall of Fame. Bill Tasker, another great name. Much like that's a good one actually, Carlos, because he's much like Matthew Slater. Tasker did play a little bit on offense, but neither one of them really contribute anywhere except special teams, and they've been able to hang around for 15 years. This is the last chance for the Packers to get over the hump. Good point, Alan. I know you messaged me this earlier today. 48 million over the cap. They're going to get out from under a lot of that probably with Rodgers moving on, if that in fact is the case. By the way, here's what there was a point about Rodgers I wanted to make. So they may break up this team. I agree, and who knows what's going to happen. But Rodgers being gone is going to take care of a lot of that cap space and some other guys. They need to keep their nucleus of Jones and Adams have got to stay in my mind for this team to continue down the road. Before I go on some more comments, let me talk a little about Aaron Jones. Again, Aaron Jones. God, boy, too many Aarons. I was going to call him Aaron Boone a little while ago. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a tremendous year. Had this argument with Carlos about whether he can be considered for the MVP. I would never vote for him, ever, because of the crap he brings off the field. He's a great player on the field. Sometimes I worry about his decision-making. But if you want to just look at the numbers and the wins and losses, I would say Tom Brady and Aaron Jones, one of them is going to win the MVP. Now, that said, I had to chuckle last night when I hear Aaron Rodgers, and I don't remember if it was in a post game. It was in his post game comments. I don't know that they were live. I heard them repeat it, so they're third party. But still, I don't doubt that he said this. He said he was very proud of this team for being able to overcome all the adversity they had to deal with all year. Well, I ask you guys, and I ask Aaron Rodgers, Where did that adversity come from? You generated every bit of adversity this team had to overcome. And that's why Aaron Rodgers can't be the most valuable player in the football. And that's why Aaron Rodgers needs to get out of the Green Bay. Right? And go create your drama somewhere else. You Giant fans, you want them? You can have them. Denver's a good spot for him. What a hypocrite. What a knucklehead. How does he think? You praise your teammates for overcoming the adversity that you created. You created. Listen, Packer fans, Kenny, you're a Packer fan. You guys all follow the NFL very closely. You tell me some other controversy or adversity that the Packers had to overcome this year, except for Aaron Rodgers being involved in it. And I'll wait. But a good point, Alan. This team's going to have some problems next year. Packers should take a page from Jimmy Johnson and get all they can for Rodgers. But you're not going to get that kind of haul like you got for Herschel Walker back in the day. Number one, teams aren't going to be that stupid this year in these times, I don't think. And Aaron Rodgers' best days are behind them. Herschel Walker was a fairly young player yet at the time. And he certainly wasn't worth what they got, but they turned Herschel Walker into a 2-time Super Bowl championships. So that's a good point. They should get what they can and rebuild with the parts that they get, but I don't think they'll get quite the haul that they got there. Great point, Kenny. That's a issue in a playoff game for Rodgers. Not sure. Kenny, did you say something? Oh, there you go. I missed one here. Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Rodgers has thrown. Oh, I see what you're saying. I did put that up. All right. So Carlos is on the same page with you there. So anyway, you guys, I'll go backwards, but you guys got some input on what I just said about Rodgers. I don't get it, man. Oh, I got some more comments. I thought I was out. All right, I was going to move on. We want Jim Beringer. Jim's mostly a college football fan, but we'll get some opinion from Jim. Pretty sure the 49ers are happy they didn't draft the loser. I don't know. We can say what we want. 49ers don't have any championships since Aaron Rodgers was drafted that I can remember. So, and Aaron Rodgers, for everything we want to say, he does have a Super Bowl championship, and some of these other teams don't. Keep saying a team gets way too much credit for being a good team when they play in a weak division. You can only play in the division you're put in, Carlos. I mean, I heard the same crap about the Patriots for 20 years. Was that not a great team? You're going to tell me they didn't win? They only won 6 Super Bowls because they were in a crappy division, and that's not the team's fault that those teams don't get better. Don't disagree. It's on a downslide this year. But the Packers, there's been some years where the Vikings were good. There have been years where the Bears were good. They're not consistently good. I'll give you that. But, whatever. You can only play the teams that are in your division, and you can only play the teams that are on your schedule. Rodgers puts them under when he's gone. I don't know if he will alone, though, Kenny. I don't think he's going to have $48 million in cap space that'll be gone last year. Over 1 year. But I'm sure there's other creative ways to get under the cap. These guys, they've got capologists. That's all they do. It's time for this team to move on. This toxic environment that existed in Green Bay this year, no matter whether Aaron Rodgers wants to credit his teammates or not, cannot continue. Rodgers does talk too much. You know what? For years, Aaron Rodgers didn't say anything. I got a cat very similar to Aaron Rodgers. He's 12 years old. This cat went off by himself, and I swear to you, he never meowed for 12 years, 11 and a half years. I can't shut him up now. I can't shut him up. And that's it's like Aaron Rodgers. He was not a controversial figure until the last couple of years when he started dating supermodels and actresses. And, we got to hear about how he was estranged from his family. And then all of a sudden he kept talking. And everybody agrees that Aaron Rodgers talks too much. Just shut that trap and play football. You know what? Again, watch the Patriot model, guys. Good morning, Dave Guyette. Good luck tonight. We'll talk more about your Buffalo Bills a bit later on. Drew's back. Good morning, Drew. How are you? Everyone's been towing in line because of the need to work together and reach a goal. That is gone, assuming Rodgers leaves. It'll be interesting to see what his teammates say about it. Yeah, it's a good point, Drew. Teammates don't speak up. And there's no way there aren't guys in that locker room pissed off Aaron Rodgers saying that he doesn't have enough weapons and team's not good enough to win. When I'm sorry, they were good enough to win. If he'd walked into the end zone last year, he'd have been in the Super Bowl. But there's no way he didn't divide that locker room. So again, him talking about the adversity this team overcame, yes, he's right. God bless the Packers and LaFleur. Great coaching job, coaching around the nonsense surrounding this team. All created by one guy who's now going to praise his teammates for overcoming that adversity. What an idiot. Go Bills. We'll get there, Dave. I promise. I got to keep bashing Aaron Boone for a bit. Oh, I did it. Aaron Rodgers. Key players injured part of the game. Starting left tackle Bacardi out all year. Smith out. Alexander out since October. Again, I agree. But injuries are part of the game. And the NFL goes to 17 games this year. They're going to go to 18 games eventually. And, it's only part of what we got to deal with and what the teams have to deal with. Sal, good morning, Sal. Good to have you in. Sal, post up the Philly station because I've always got to rely on Mark to supply it. Sal's part of the Mark Mancini team in Philadelphia on Thursdays at 6:00. You can listen to it online. It's a great show, guys. And I know I'm supposed to be contacting Marianne to get on for a few minutes one night, and I will do that, I promise. But Sal, do me a favor and post that so I can put it up here, and it'll be in the comments going forward. And don't hesitate to do that, Sal. And thanks for being here this morning. Kenny's telling me to wait a minute with 2 exclamation points. I'm the king of the explanation points. Explanation. Exclamation, Keith. Exclamation. Rodgers has won Super Bowl in 15 years. Some teams are. No, I didn't say they weren't. No, I get what you're saying. He didn't get the team over the top. I'm not disagreeing with that, Kenny. What I was talking about was some teams that didn't draft him that didn't win any Super Bowls either. It's hard for me to say, San Francisco didn't win any either. Should Aaron Rodgers have won more than one Super Bowl in 15 years? Absolutely. I am in no way, shape, or form is absolving him from that. Right? I saw some. That's not happening. First of all, it's going to be more than a straight up because there's going to be draft picks wherever Rodgers goes. And why does Green Bay want Garoppolo? Has anybody watched Jimmy Garoppolo play? Does anybody remember them letting him throw the ball 8 times in an NFC Championship game? There's a reason for it. Lori, Grace, good morning, Grace. Good to have you in this morning and commenting on the show. I'm not sure what you're agreeing with, but I'm sure you're agreeing with the Aaron Rodgers bashing based on your appearance comments. Listen, I've talked about this forever. The man bun works for nobody, except if you're not carrying a lightsaber and you're a Jedi Knight. You can't be wearing a man bun. It doesn't work for anybody except them. So if you're wearing a Jedi robe and got a lightsaber, you can wear it. Aaron Rodgers, you look like an idiot. I have to be careful throwing around hair comments, as you can see. But it is what it is. Rodgers should just retire. He says it's an option for him. I don't see it. I think his ego is going to make him go out and find a team. Hopefully, the Green Bay will find a team, and he may have to approve a trade. I don't know the total situation with him in that, but he probably his ego is going to want to prove Green Bay's wrong, and he was right, that they wouldn't get him the right players and enough of the good players. Which as Drew said before, I can't wait till the guy speak up when he's gone. So I think he'll go somewhere else. Sal says Aaron should just adhere to this. Remain silent and be thought the fool. Right. Speak up and remove all doubt. I've heard that about fool and idiots can be applied there as well, Sal. So very, very good point. That's why he didn't talk for 12 years, by the way, because he's not very smart. Maybe it's just me. And maybe that's why he's on the Pat McAfee show and nowhere else. He's not coming on with me because, well, Pat McAfee's probably got a few more viewers than I have. But mine are better viewers than Pat McAfee. And plus, Pat McAfee's not a rocket scientist either. Agreed, Rick. Welcome back, Drew. And I hope, Drew, you stick around for when we talk a little baseball here in another, half hour or so. I want to talk about a little bit about the lockout. And I want to talk about the Hall of Fame voting and a follow up on a vlog that I did Friday. A lot of highs to Drew. A lot of highs, Sal. Drew, what about some props for the Bengals moving through the playoffs? We're going to get there as soon as I get through these comments. We're going to move on to the Bengals because I've talked about Aaron Rodgers long enough. Sal, that's it. Thank you. WWDB AM Talk Radio and 860 out of Philadelphia, guys. Listen to Sal and Mark Mancini's on that show. Marianne, can't remember her last name, Sal, but listen to those guys. They got a great half hour, 6 o'clock, I think, on Thursdays. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Mark obviously will give a little plug later on. Green Bay created that cap issues. We aren't talking about Rodgers creating the cap issues. You got to get rid of Rodgers. Rodgers can't stay there. He's toxic to the environment. LaFleur has very little coaching experience and more of a problem. I disagree 100%. LaFleur did a great job this year navigating the issues Aaron Rodgers brought to this team off the field, and I guarantee you in that locker room. And you and I and everybody else here has no idea what went on there, and I could be wrong. First to admit it. Let me try to get through these comments quickly. I want to get to the Bengals. Bengals 49ers Super Bowl, maybe. Bengals got to do a little better than they did yesterday. I love the Bengals story. We're going to get to it, as Drew said. Does Sal know where Mark can find some cheesesteaks? Sal, we're going to be sending a search party out for Mancini. I know he's in a bunker there in L.A. anyway to protect himself from all the L.A. fans. But we got to get some cheesesteaks out here to Rick Sherlock. Alan, I agree, they don't want Rodgers. Vince Lombardi was heard last night. What the hell is going on out there? Good reference, Mark. If you don't know that, watch some NFL films, and it's hard to watch much of it without hearing that phrase come up eventually. Lorian, again, laughing at all of us probably. Oh, probably the hair deal. When you don't have hair, you have all the rights needed to make fun of hairdos. Thank you, Kenny. Rodgers is that's not his name. Yeah, we're talking about oh God, what's the actor? That's not his name, though, is it? Rodgers? I'm sorry, Brett Cloutier. Good morning, by the way, Brett Cloutier. Yeah, Quinjan from the awful prequels, but he was a good character. Marianne Costello, yeah. Roger on the Philly show. Rodgers was 10 times, 9 times, I think it was, but close enough. It should have been 10. Could be 10 if you call it 10. I got to look at the numbers, but if they call that last one, he got tackled behind the line before they kicked the field goal. If somebody touched him and gave him a cheap sack, it was 10 times. Yeah, 6 p.m., but also Facebook Live. Yeah, well, that's true. I forgot they were doing that simulcast as well. You can go to the radio station's webpage, which I've done, and listen to it live, and you can get it on Facebook, I believe, as well. Let's jump into the Bengals since Alan's got a game here, and it looks like some of the comments are going to be about that. Let's jump to the Bengals game. Now, this game was, I thought, interesting. An interesting game. The Bengals now have not played their best football, I don't think, for 2 games. And some of that's the defenses that they were playing. Titans played great defense yesterday. The 9 sacks, a lot of them were Burrow's fault for holding on to the ball too long. Some of them he had no chance because guys were on him from the snap. Others were a matter of, unlike Aaron Jones for Rodgers last night, and the way Kansas City will do it, they had no people for him to have as a safety valve. They had guys running 10, 15 yards down the field the whole game, and he had nowhere to go. So, I think Burrow's played a very good game, I thought, yesterday. He had 3 he didn't have 3 interceptions. He had 1 interception, no touchdowns, but played a much cleaner game with less potential issues than Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill was in my mind, the reason the Titans lost this game. And by the way, he was in my bottom 3 of quarterbacks I trusted before the playoffs started. Bottom 4. And they're all gone, by the way. The only guy I really trusted it's out is Aaron Rodgers. But Ryan Tannehill was awful in this game. I'm sorry. And it's not about running for 40 yards. He should have run the ball more. First of all, he didn't have that many options. He's not that big a running quarterback. He doesn't run the ball that much or as effectively as, say, even a Mahomes. Can he run a football? Absolutely. Everybody has to be able to run the football. Joe Burrow ran the football twice for 5 yards. He looks like Tom Brady out there. But the reason they lost wasn't that. The reason they lost was Ryan Tannehill turned the ball over in horrendous spots with bad decisions 3 different times. They sacked Burrow. Let's see what they officially say. Officially, it's 9.68 sacks. I'm not sure how they get that number. No, I'm sorry. It's not it. That's the yardage they lost. So 9 sacks, 9-10 doesn't matter. You can't give. They give up 9 sacks next week against Buffalo or Kansas City, they're going to get blown off the field because they need to score touchdowns. My only gripe with this team is they don't put the ball in the end zone enough when they are driving. They move the ball up and down the field, and then they don't convert for touchdowns. So Joe Burrow, he's shown he's a tough guy, man. 9 sacks, made some big throws. Jamar Chase is a difference maker in these games. The best player I've seen on the field. People are really talking about Samuel. What's Debo's name now? Samuel. But Jamar Chase is the difference maker. He's the best player I've seen on the field in the playoffs so far. And he had another exceptional game last night. Didn't run the ball as much as he did the week before. They only tried to run that jet sweep with him once. They were very effective with it 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. But you saw, all you need to know about Jamar Chase was to see that one little hitch, that one quick screen, not even a screen pass. It was out in that flat. It's just a little hitch. It was 1 yard pass. And there's 2 guys there that got him, and he made a move that made them tackle each other. So a great effort by Jones. Look, at Tennessee did everything they could do to win that game. They ran the ball effectively, 140 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Their number 1 receiver had a huge game. A.J. Brown was awesome yesterday. He had 9 targets, 5 catches, 142 yards. And the defense sacked the opposing quarterback 9 times for total losses of 68 yards. And they allowed 1 touchdown. 1 touchdown to one of the most dynamic offenses in the AFC. Ryan Tannehill was the difference in this game. And why the Titans did not win and the Bengals did. And again, I won't discount the fact that the Bengals defense caused Ryan Tannehill to make these mistakes, but I've never been a Ryan Tannehill fan. Tell me the last big game he won, beat the Patriots in a Super Bowl, or the divisional game. Okay. God bless him. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, we got a lot of comments again. We got to get to today's games too. So I'm not going backwards. So what we got here? Once again, Carlos, you're not in touch with what one guy does to team. Oh, we're talking about. Look at. I will go backwards now because now I'm understanding the context of the comment. If you're telling me. If you're telling me that LaFleur is the reason for the adversity on the Packers, you're crazy, Carlos. And again, I agree with Kenny here. You've got one guy can destroy the chemistry on a team and cause all kinds of problems and did on that team this year. And you saw it come to fruition last night. Talk about the crap playbook all you want. If the playbook was crap, Rodgers and Jones wouldn't have the numbers that they have. Adams wouldn't have the numbers that they have. The problem in that team is Aaron Rodgers, plain and simple. End of story. I'm moving on. I'm not talking about it anymore. Burrow's actually sacked 9 times, as Alan said. Yeah, but you know it's funny. I suppose if somebody had touched him when he fell down there on for that 1 yard loss before the field goal to win the game, they might have given somebody credit because there are a lot of those cheap sacks around. Interception on the first play again. Right out of the box. Great call, Alan. The guy, horrible decision on the very first play of the game. Bengals tried to run the ball and did what the Bengals ran the ball okay. They only averaged 3.6 yards a carry. Mixon had 14 carries for 4 yards, just under 4 yards. That's it. They only tried to run the ball 16 times. Well, if you don't count Burrow, they had 16 pass attempts because none of Burrow's were, designated runs. He ran the ball. Look at you got to have a quarterback. Got to be able to throw the ball downfield, Kenny. I mean, at least you got to have a threat of being able to throw the ball downfield. And what's downfield? The last interception he threw was only about a 15-yard pass, horribly thrown at a time you can't turn the ball over. They were in position to win that game, and he turns the ball over. Good quarterbacks don't do that. You're going to find out today, I think, in the Tampa Bay Rams game, the same kind of thing. Wonder how often number seeds have both been upset in their only playoff games. I'm sure it's happened. Alan asked me this yesterday in a message, Drew, and I should have looked it up before the show today. But I got to believe that it's happened where all 4 number 1 seeds lost in their only playoff game, but maybe not. But I know it's got to have happened. At least 2 of them have lost, I would think. And again, the playoffs are a little different this year, too, because you remember, you go back in the day when, there was 4 teams in the playoffs, 3 division winners and 1 wild card. Everybody played. There was no buys. So that one might have played into, I don't know, either more or less losses. The buys play into this. I don't know. Oops, sorry, I just ignored. Going for 2 after TB was stupid as well. I totally agree. Here's something, and I agree with, I don't know who talked about this in the studio, Boomer or Phil Simms, and, I kind of agree. You only go for 2 when you absolutely have to. Otherwise, you're chasing that point the whole time. They would have been ahead, theoretically, if they kicked the extra point. They would have been ahead against game 16, 17-16, and who knows how it plays out from there. Now, what if, again, we can go what if all day long. But it was a bad decision by the coaching staff there. And Mike Vrabel's done a great job, by the way, just to get to the number one seed with this team, and with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback and your best weapon out for 8 games. Tremendous job. No reason to go for it there. Now, on the topic of twos, there's statistical studies out there that say if you go for 2 every time, you're probably going to come out ahead at the end of the day over the long term. Well, but those statistical studies hold no water unless you do it every single time. You can't pick and choose when you go for it and use those stats to augment your argument, which a lot of coaches will do. So you want to go for it every single time? Well, then I'll understand your logic, I guess. But game situations need to dictate what you do. It's like baseball. You can't go in there with a predetermined idea. I'm going to go for 2 every time if the game situation doesn't dictate it. And the game situation did not dictate it there. 1 yard versus 2 yards. I mean, yeah, it's half as much, but I'm just not doing it. Burrows to Chase is the equivalent of Burrows or Rodgers to Adams, at least. Burrows to Chase is going to be it's going to be Montana to Rice is what it's going to be, Drew, in my mind. One of the great tandems that ever played the game. The ball bounced off a wideout last. No. The ball bounced off a defensive guy and the offensive guy. Go back and watch the play, Carlos. The ball was well defended, and the ball did go up in the air and was picked off on a rebound. But still, there was a bad decision to throw the ball where he threw it. There's nothing that will change that result. And Cincinnati scored off turnovers, and Tennessee didn't. Good call. And there was more of them to score off of than Tennessee had, which is also a good call. They won a turnover battle and did something with the turnovers that they got. Well, I don't know what you were watching, Carlos. His quarterback rating was 66. I'll just go by the numbers, okay? I know we like numbers. His quarterback rating was 66. He threw 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. And I don't care. All the interceptions were his fault in my mind. All of them. So I did not see a good quarterback out there yesterday. And maybe I'm my opinion is tinted by the fact that I don't think he's a good quarterback. Bills, please, for grace. Titans need to put the ball in the end zone. Everybody does. So does the Bengals, by the way. The Bengals get the Bills or Kansas City on the road last week. And if they don't put the ball in the end zone, it's going to be lights out next week. Field goals will not get it done against those 2 teams. What I saw was that the Packers didn't score enough either. Agreed. Well, the defense has played well. Nobody scored enough. And they've ended up with less points than the other team. They didn't score enough. Patriots didn't score enough last week either. The playbook is crap. We're back to the they also all won. Well, Shanahan's playbook, by the way, has been 2 Super Bowls. So has McVay's. Last time both number 1 seeds lost in the same week was 2010. Patriots and Falcons. Good call there, Alan. Alan's my research guy, I think, on this show. So thank you, Alan, for bringing that up. Sorry it had to be the Patriots being one of them. Agree that Alan played for 2 hurt. Just Not smart. Not smart. They made the playoffs with that playbook, but Super Bowl wins. Ugh. That playbook started with a guy who won back-to-back Super Bowls, by the way. Yes, so that it can win. Shanahan tree has no Super Bowl wins, but the Shanahan tree started with Super Bowl wins. Here's a Belichick tree, by the way, Carlos. Is his system crap? Come on. These quarterback tree things are so overrated. So overrated. It's ridiculous. It depends on the situation the guys go into. If Bill Belichick never gets another chance, then and Tom Coughlin gets fired before when he nearly got fired with the Jets, then Bill Parcells' coaching tree is atrocious. And it's not. So this coaching tree thing is, to me, is nonsensical. That's exactly what I was saying. Thank you, Alan. Tannehill sat in the pocket way too long. Should have had some. I don't see where the plays where he could have run the ball, which he did not have a lot of room to run the ball, would have changed the outcome of this game any way, shape, or form. Unless he actually ran the ball on the 3 passes he had intercepted. Then it would have affected the game. Well, guess where a lot of the influence for that playbook comes from, Carlos? It comes from his dad. I'm not saying they're exactly the same. The game isn't the same today as it was in 97 and 98. But a lot of the basic premises are still being carried out by his son. And if, according to you, everyone who ever coached under Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan's got a shot to go to his second Super Bowl in 3 years or 4 years. Is it 3 years? If I do my math right. Yeah, I remember now. Damn Patriot. I hated that game. All right, guys. A lot of good stuff there. Let's move on. We can talk about some of this as we go on, but let's move on to today's games, shall we? Actually, I'm already there. All right. Anyway, let's go to today's games. Tampa Bay and the Rams. Look at. I know people are talking about how the Rams are going to take Brady out of his rhythm. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They do have the best pass rush in football. But it's not as good as people think. And Tom Brady and Bruce Arians are going to be ready for that pass rush. And there's going to be places for Brady to go with the football. And if he can beat that pass rush, the Tampa Bay will win the game. And what I'm going to tell you also is if it comes down to, and we've seen it already in the playoffs, guys. We've already seen, I don't like the fact my top of my head is missing. All right, lesson to everybody. Don't play with the computer while you're live. So I had to disappear for a second. So where I was I think it's going to be a very close game. And I think you've seen throughout the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers not maybe being the exception. The guys that I talked about, you can't trust in big moments, have shown that. And I don't trust Matthew Stafford in a big moment. He didn't get a big moment. He played well, last week. He can play well and put numbers up and help teams win in games that are not close in the final minutes. When it's getting tight out there. Yeah, oops. Thanks, Kurt. I guess that was for me. I did close my window out for a second, so I apologize. Matthew Stafford, in a big moment, you're going to see Derek Carr in that same type of situation. Derek Carr played a great game last week against the Bengals. When the moment was big at the end of the game, and they had first and goal from the, I don't remember what it was. Let's say the 9. I don't remember. He couldn't get it done. Now, that's not all on him. It's all about execution. I get that. But the epitome of what I'm talking about is the very last play that he had a chance to get in on 4th and goal. He doesn't even throw the ball into the end zone. That play had no chance to score. So it's all about what these guys do in the pressure of the most pressurized moments of the game. So if I got Tom Brady against Stafford, I know, again, they're not playing each other, and I got to count on somebody to win in a pressure moment, well, guess who I'm counting on? And I've seen it with Derek Carr. I saw it with, I had some notes here. I don't remember who I wrote down. Who are the other quarterbacks that came up small? Mac Jones, I'm going to give a pass, although I did have him in my bottom 5, just because he's a rookie. But I had Derek Carr at the bottom. I had Tannehill at the bottom. I had, where's the other scores? Oh, where's the previous scores for this? Bear with me a second, guys. Who are the other quarterbacks that have lost? Tell me out here. Escaping my mind. Dak Prescott. We'll talk about Dak in a second. I talked about Carr. Oh, Jalen Hurts. But not that it came down to a big moment. Dak did blow it in a big moment as well. So I guess those are the only 2 guys right now. But you got to be able to withstand the pressure, stay within yourself in those moments in games. Dak Prescott, actually, and again, Kenny, I know you're a big Dak Prescott detractor. I have done a lot of defending of Dak Prescott as a great quarterback and somebody who would win in the big moment. And he showed last week, first of all, he didn't play well the whole game. And then when I got a chance to come back at the end, he doesn't know enough to give the ball to the referee. People talk about the fact that he ran the ball. I don't think him running the football there, trying to set up a play where they can get to the end zone from the 20 instead of the 40 is a bad play. Probably should have slid sooner. Even with that, he gets up. He's got to know to give the ball to the referee to spot the ball. Not put it down yourself where you think it is and let guys surround it and the guy can't even get to the ball. So you can't get that play off. That's what I'm talking about. Knowing what to do in a most pressurized situation. Part of that's on that quarterback, on Dak. And that's coaching too, guys. I'm sorry. Mike McCarthy has got to be – that's a play that those are situations that you have to practice. And you have to know what to do on every possible scenario. And I guarantee you, if that's Tom Brady or even Aaron Rodgers, they get up and they give the ball to the referee to spot and they get the team lined up. Foolish play. So today I like the Buccaneers. If Fournette, I know I saw something here. I'm not sure about Fournette. I think he's clear to play. I saw somebody post something, and we'll get into your comments here. And I do want to get to some baseball here in about 10 minutes, so we'll move on from this in a second. Let me get through some comments. Second in 3 years, Keith. Not sure what that was about. Fournette will play today, not Whitworth for the Rams. Again, and those are 2 big moves. Fournette, the running game is big for Tampa Bay today. They've got some other options in, Ronald Jones if he's healthy, and Bernard if he can play. He's been all banged up, and everybody's banged up. Not an excuse. This game comes down to Brady And Tampa Bay offensive line keeping that pass rush off of Tom Brady. And I've got them winning this game, I think about 28-24. A Brown enters the game from the stand. Antonio Brown enters the game for the stands. AB is a different story, which we'll talk more about probably if he ever signs with anybody ever again, which my guess is he won't be. Although there's always one dumb owner. The defense is a lot better than Philly, though. I don't disagree with that. Definitely. The Rams defense is good, but it's not, the Chicago Bears in 1986. Carlos can't get off the Shanahan thing. No Super Bowl wins, and if they want to take it back from Mike won 2, by the way, Carlos, with John Elway, back-to-back years. Back-to-back years, Carlos. Look it up. Green Bay and Atlanta. Sorry, Billy. Rams have a short week. Again, you know what, Billy? Good point. And I talked about this a couple of different times. See my screen getting choppy. I'm not terribly happy with my internet coverage today. It was ridiculous for the NFL to schedule this Monday Night Football game because whoever won was going to have a short week no matter what they did. And the other team, I don't care if it's a day, it's still a disadvantage for that team to have to come in on short rest and short preparation with travel included, by the way, across the country. Ridiculous for the NFL to play a Monday Night Football game in the playoffs. Sorry, idiotic. So it could come into play today. Plus, they're traveling to the East Coast and playing, and I'm sure they've been here a while. They probably came in on Thursday. I don't know for sure. But traveling west to east is not always easy, man. It takes days to get yourself acclimated, and now they're playing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is really 10 a.m. for them. The run wasn't as bad play, but the execution and coaching was god-awful. But the run was – I think you're saying the same thing I am, Alan. So, and again, you coach guys before that fact. In practice, you practice that play or plays like it, and you get the ball to the referee. You hammer it into a guy's head with the clock ticking and no timeouts. This is what you do. Coaching. Le'Veon Bell. He's been done for a long time. The way to beat Brady is to pressure him up the middle and get in his face. Agreed. It doesn't work all the time, but that is a blueprint for beating Tom Brady. It's also a blueprint for beating a lot of quarterbacks, by the way. Just an FYI. But he could be beat. Oh, he won it with one John Elway. All right, well, okay. John Elway also lost 3 Super Bowls. Sorry. So, look, John Elway's a great player. It's not like he's Tom Brady. All right. Oh, sorry, guys. Let's move on to the Bills and the Chiefs tonight at 6:45. Very upset, by the way, that they moved the divisional round games now to 3:15 starts and 6:45. It throws my whole Sunday off. This would have been my last Sunday out to watch football, the 1 o'clock games, but they threw my schedule off, so that schedule ended a week early. I don't like this. Of course, they do it for ratings because, there's going to be more people watching, even at 4 o'clock on a Sunday than there are at 1 o'clock. I get it. The late game, they can push the end of the game or most of the game into prime time, so whatever. Just not happy about it. Just thought I'd throw that in because it is all about me. The Chiefs and the Bills. Look, the Bills beat the Chiefs during the regular season 38-20. It's while the Chiefs were really not playing well, getting off to a pretty bad start. And it likely means nothing today. But I will tell you that Buffalo, well, these are 2 prolific offenses. Buffalo also has the best defense, at least statistically speaking, in the NFL. And they played well. And I think the key is they're going to have to keep Mahomes in the pocket. While Mahomes doesn't run like Josh Allen runs, Mahomes picks his spots, and he moves around the pocket. He throws on a move better than anybody not named Aaron Rodgers. So you're better off with him standing still throwing the football. Keep him in the pocket. They can win. If the Bills can run the ball as well as they did. By the way, I'm picking Tampa Bay to win that game. I think I said that, 28-24. Hope that's within the spread. If it's not, I'll take them by more because I'm betting Tampa Bay. Where was I? Oh, if the Bills can run the ball with the efficiency that they did last week. Now, the Kansas City's defense getting better, but they're still ranked 27th in the league. And I think the special teams on both these teams are fairly equal. So this comes down to defensive football and also what they do with spying the other quarterback and running the football. We talked about the having an outlet, right? When you get pressure, so the Bills can pressure the quarterback. I think a guy for the Chiefs that will come up big is God, I forgot his name, Jerick McKinnon. Let me get there. I know I got his name here somewhere. Where's his name? Somebody's probably already posting it. So Jerick McKinnon. Yes, Jerick McKinnon. He'll be a guy to watch on those little screens. And when there's pressure and he can't get the ball downfield, watch out for him. He could be a big factor in this game. But I think the overall factor is Josh Allen. If the Bills can carry over that momentum from last week, the Bills are a better football team than the Chiefs right now. Josh Allen and Mahomes is probably the new Brady and Manning. We're going to be watching them play in these types of games for the next decade. And that's good for the game. Love those types of matchups. And I think that's what you're going to see for the next decade. But you need the winners, and the Brady won most of those games because he had a better complete team around him. Right now, I don't think either one of those teams is quite there, but I think Buffalo's a little bit more complete right now than Kansas City. If Kansas City's healthy with Hilaire, and we mentioned McKinnon, and of course Williams, I don't know what his status is yet today. I think he's playing today. He's questionable. They can run the football, but they got some other injuries. Hill's banged up. Kelsey, I don't know how he came out of that game. He was limping around a lot last week. And Kelsey's a great player, but he's starting to slow down, and you can see it. He's starting to look like Gronk looked his last couple of years with the Patriots. I just think Buffalo's got better momentum, even though Kansas City played a great game against Pittsburgh. They didn't play as good a team as the Bills played or have the efficiency. The confidence the Bills have right now has got to be soaring to set an NFL record with 7 possessions for touchdowns. Bills need to run the football. Rams 24-14. There you go. Bills 31-30. I'm calling Bills 38-35 in overtime in this game. Bills need to run the ball and keep Mahomes on the sidelines. That's a good point. They do need to keep him off the field, but when he's on the field, I think they need to keep him from being on the move. This is probably, it probably is. I like what the Bengals been doing too, Drew, and I think I do think they'd have a puncher's chance next week. But this could very well be the AFC Championship game. I don't disagree. And Hilaire will be back, as we talked about. What I like these playoffs is that they are hard at they're going hard, these high-powered offenses. And yeah, I agree. The defensive play has been good. We talk a lot, and I've talked a lot about the offensive deficiencies, but I think they've played very well, the defenses, and caused some of the problems of the offenses that have had. So defense, that's how you win championships. Guys, going to be a great game today, and we're going to get more. We'll talk more about it when Mark comes in at 10:25 or so. But right now, before we run out of time, I do want to have a quick conversation here. Where's my billionaire? I'm not going to get into the lockout too much. I want to talk about. I guess I don't have a banner. All right. I want to talk about the lockout. Well, maybe I'll go down here. All right. This is from my vlog, Hall of Fame voting. And I want to talk about the finals. The votes are already in. They were in December 31st. They're going to be announced on the 25th. You got 4 guys in their last shot here: Bonds, Clemens, Schilling, and Sosa. And I'll tell you who I would have voted for in my ballot. You can vote for 10 guys. I'll give you my entire ballot, but I'm going to tell you that I would vote for Bonds and Clemens because the steroid thing, there's a bunch of different reasons. Both of them had Hall of Fame careers before, by everything that we know, they would have been Hall of Famers without the steroids. Secondly, I don't know who was doing steroids and who wasn't when they were all doing them. It could have been everybody. The playing field could have been much more level than I know. And third, they are great players who need to be in the Hall of Fame, as does Pete Rose, as does Shoeless Joe Jackson. But you tell the entire story. You put it on their plaque that they cheated and they used steroids, blah, 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 blah. Hall of Fame, the best players have to be there. Have to be there. Pete Rose is all over the Hall of Fame, first of all, so it's hypocritical by the Hall of Fame just not giving him a plaque when he's everywhere in the Hall of Fame. Secondly, tell the story. Why should it be forgotten? Put it in your historic museum that these guys cheated, that there was a steroid era, and these guys benefited from it. Now, I'm not saying I agree with what they did. To me, Henry Aaron is still the home run champion. Did it prolong Roger Clemens' career? Absolutely. But these guys deserve to be in the Hall of Fame before they started doing it. And I also want the story told, and I want warts and all on their plaque and elsewhere that this is what they did before they cheated. This is what they did after, but they're still 2 of the greatest players in the history of the game. And I'll get to some comments here if they're coming in a second. Now, Schilling's a different story. Schilling's being kept out in my mind. First of all, I don't think Schilling should be in. He was a very, very, very good pitcher. But this isn't the hall of very, 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 very good. And there's too many very, very, very good players in there already. And Schilling, to me, was a great postseason pitcher. The numbers just aren't there. Never won a Cy Young. And he's being kept out, though, because of his political views and the fact that he can't keep his mouth shut. That's wrong. You want to vote him out on principle that he's not a Hall of Fame worthy player, I'm okay with that. I'm not a big fan. And before I go on, so that's my take on Schilling. Not good enough to be in a Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of Fame, the best players, not very good. And Sammy Sosa, just look at the numbers are there, but that steroids totally made Sammy Sosa. So I'm not letting Sammy Sosa in because I know for a fact steroids are the reason his numbers are there. Might sound a little bit, contradictory to my earlier statements, but not as much. I just don't think he should be in. If he got in, I'd be fine, but put on his plaque why he's there. But he's not getting in. The other guys, by the way, Clemens and Bonds both had 61% of the vote. They need 75 to get in. And Schilling he had 71%. I don't think anybody's ever reached that high without getting in. So we'll see. And I'll also add, before I go to your comments, my comments about the Hall of Fame being the Hall of Very, Very Good now and not the Hall of Fame. Just look at the just look at who the Veterans Committee or whatever we're calling it now. Let me pull something up here. Hold on. I'm gonna give you my picks too before I go. The Golden Days Era Committee. They put in Gil Hodges. Gil Hodges is a great player. Very, very good player. Sorry, not a Hall of Famer. He's just not. Jim Cott. I give Jim Cott the benefit of the doubt. Played a long time. 3.45 ERA in a time where ERAs were much better than that because of the advantages were for the pitcher. Not a Hall of Famer. Minnie Minoso. God, how is Minnie Minoso a Hall of Famer? Great player for a long time. Tony Oliva, the numbers aren't there. During a short period of time, he was a very, very good player. But if Tony Oliva's in the Hall of Fame, how's Don Mattingly not in the Hall of Fame? If that's going to be, these years only count. And I'm okay, I guess, if you want to say you were dominant over a 5-year period or whatever, 6 or 7 year period. Tony Oliva's a very good player, but the overall numbers don't add up. The same reason I'm not necessarily on the Munson bandwagon for the Hall of Fame. Great player. Numbers aren't there. And even when you look at the shorter term, the numbers pale in comparison to some other guys. I know Dave's going to disagree with me on this. So let's get to your comments because I'm going to spend the time on the comments here because I talked a lot about this in my vlog. So I hope you do that. Last shot for the writers. They can get in later. I agree, but I think it's, Drew, in my opinion, it's much less likely that this committee is ever going to bring these guys in because the committee's made up of guys that are in the Hall of Fame who think they shouldn't be in to begin with. They're some of the most staunch opponents of these guys getting in. And again, the makeup of that committee will change over the years, so who knows? It's very hard. It's a tough conversation, but I'm a believer that they should be in and we should tell the story of what they did. You put Bonds and Clemens in, you put in Rose, agreed. I agree. But tell me, and I want it known, these aren't good guys. There's a lot of bad guys in the Hall of Fame. Ty Cobb. Babe Ruth wasn't a perfect person. I'm sure there's a bunch of other guys. Christy Mathewson was a drunk. I don't care. We don't need to have saints in the Hall of Fame, but I want the best players there, and they need to be there. And if they did something wrong, tell their story. It might be a good lesson for other people. But everybody who used steroids doesn't have Hall of Fame stats to qualify. So using the post, you don't throw big words at me on a Sunday morning, Drew. It doesn't make their stats any less tainted. Well, I don't disagree. I'm not saying their stats aren't tainted. I'm not saying they didn't cheat, but the numbers are there. And you can't tell me that Barry Bonds isn't one of the best players in the history of baseball and would have been steroids or not. Same with Roger Clemens. That's my argument. And I want it clear, though, that they cheated. Agreed. Pete Rose been far overdue for him to be allowed back in. Pete Rose is his own worst enemy here in this conversation. If he had shut his mouth, he would have probably got in eventually, but he just couldn't be quiet. Rose had Hall of Fame stats before he's accused of, well, we don't know when he started betting, number one, though, Drew. Don't forget that. So that's not an issue from a cheating standpoint. Well, no, he's banned because he cheated. That's the only reason he's banned. I mean, Shoeless Joe Jackson. Did Shoeless Joe Jackson participate in the throwing of the 1919 World Series? All evidence points to no. He took money, but then he had the best numbers of anybody who played in that series. And there was no evidence, and I'm sure you've read 8 Men Out, Drew. It's a great movie, but read the book, obviously. Guys, if you haven't, it's a great book. I firmly believe just for the things I've read. By the way, there's a Hall of Fame, I think, in South Carolina for the Shoeless Joe Jackson that I want to get to. Kevin Kernan told me about it, and I want to get there. Again, he took money. He was stupid. He couldn't even read or write, Joe Jackson. But he didn't want to do what he did. Took money to do. So he... Yet again, Pete Rose, we only know that he started betting. We don't know that he didn't bet on games while he was playing. But again, the numbers are there. I agree. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And I want the story told that he bet on games and was banned for it. Okay with that. Steroids and HGA make you a better player. They don't make you a great player. You still have to have the skills. I agree with that. But they do improve your ability to recover from injury. They make you bigger. They make you stronger. They make you there's an argument whether they make you more or less susceptible to injury, I guess. But you still have to have the hand-eye coordination. You still have to have the basic overall skill set to be a talented player. But again, I say you need to have commentary on what they did during their career. And I don't care if we go back and comment on everybody in the Hall of Fame if they have something in their past that makes them look like less than a perfect person. If we want to talk about Ty Cobb and the way he treated other players and was a blatant racist, do it. You got guys in the Hall that cheated. Well, first of all, we don't know who didn't. By the way, we talk about steroids. Everybody cheated this in the 50s and 60s when greenies became the whole thing. That didn't help their performance. When guys are dragging from the long baseball season, you don't think it helped their performance during a long road trip when they were just down and out? Plus, you got guys who threw spitballs and whatnot. So put them all in there and again, tell the complete story. I'm not saying put them in there and lionize them. I'm saying put them in and tell us that they're human beings and here's the mistakes that they made. Schilling is only because the World Series wins with Arizona and Boston. He was one of the best postseason pitchers in baseball history, and that's his resume, right? But to me, you look at his regular season, then Andy Pettitte, who I don't think belongs in the Hall of Fame, has to be in the Hall of Fame as well. Because his regular season numbers are as good as Curt Schilling. And he also pitched some big games in the postseason. Won a few, Super Bowls. Schilling's sock in the Hall. So, well, there you go. Schilling's already there too. But again, my problem with Schilling's issue is I didn't get my vote either. We'll get there in a second. I'll give it when I read Drew's comment because one of the guys is in there. Schilling doesn't get my vote because of his performance on the field doesn't measure up, not because of his politics, and that's the reason he's being kept out. Guaranteed, he'd be at 75% right now. And again, I'm not saying he should be in. I'm saying he should be out. But the reason he's being kept out is not because of his play. A-Rod's availability A-Rod's probably going to get, I don't know. A-Rod's a very interesting case. This is his first year on a ballot, I believe, Drew. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this what I'm saying tells me. I don't think it does. Doesn't tell me how many times they've been up. But he's a very interesting case to find out whether what's going to happen going forward with certain guys as well. Look, there's some writers that are never going to vote for anybody who played during that era. Real quick, here would have been my ballot this year. I would have voted for Bonds. I would have voted for Clemens. I would have voted for Scott Rowland because his glove makes up for any lacking. He was a good offensive player, but anything lacking there, I would have voted for. I think the glove makes up for. Who else would I have? Manny Ramirez would be in my mind. He'd get my vote. Another guy probably out because of steroids. As much as I don't like the guy, David Ortiz I would vote for. A-Rod I'd have to vote for. And then I do think I would vote for I I think I would vote for Gary Sheffield as well. On the pitching side, I would vote for Clemens, and I believe nobody else. Let's just see. Was there anybody else I was talking about voting for here? No. I would not vote for Pettit. I wouldn't vote for Schilling. I wouldn't vote for any of the other pitchers up except for Clemens. That would be my picks for this year's Hall of Fame ballot. What else we got here? Let me grab a few more things before Mark comes in. We'll put them on hold if we got to get through these. Carlos, you have a room of baseball and not. You will have a room of baseball and not hall if you vote using ethics. Well, again, as I said, there are an innumerable number of people in the Hall of Fame that are not good people. Sammy does have 609 home runs. Yeah, I know. And again, it probably sounds a bit contrary to what I said about Bonds and Clemens, but Sammy didn't have the numbers and didn't have the career before steroids. His numbers are all attributed to steroids. Hang on a second, guys. Hey, Mark, let me finish up here and we'll bring you right in. So hang on one second.
Okay.
So, again, that's my argument there is that Sammy's numbers are all steroid related. But again, based on what I said before, maybe you put him in and tell the whole story. Pudge, you want in? I think Pudge is off the ballot, though, isn't he, Alan? And he may get in one day before it's all over. But it's tough. It's tough with some of these these guys. Drew's got, first year for A-Rod. Let's see, Sammy was my favorite player as a kid. I fell in love, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, listen, Sammy became a cartoon character, guys, and he's a guy that I have a hard time voting for, even though the numbers are there. And what I just said, tell the whole story about how he cheated, but put him in because of the numbers. We'll see. Billy Wagner, Drew, is kind of a borderline case for me. Had some really good years, but I don't think the longevity was there in my mind. I don't know. I have to take a look back at his case. Rick is talking to Carlos on most of this. I would agree, except for Bonds. When he went from the athletic skinny kid, the huge head. Jesus. It's funny, his head changed size when he retired, too. Yankee bias for Clemens? No, I don't think so. He did well with the Astros. He did well with the Blue Jays, won a Cy Young Award. Did well with the Red Sox. I'm not the biggest Roger Clemens fan in the world, guys, but he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Anyway, with that said, let me change my banner here if I can find it quickly because my new glasses are coming next week, guys. Hopefully this will get much easier for Keith because he can't find his damn I got my college football huddle thing up now. Anyway, let's bring in Mark Mancini from Mancini Media while I'm doing this. And I don't even have your picture to put up yet. So go ahead and say good morning.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it's a show that's sweeping the country on Sundays. It's the grind. And you got to put Barry Bonds in there. I love Barry Bonds. And the real cheater of this whole issue is Bud Selig. He had a front row seat when the Chicks Dig the Long Ball slogan was going on. So baseball was on dire straits. These guys saved the game. You got to get them in the hall. But I will tell you this. There are some people that rip Mancini, and they need to acknowledge Cincinnati, Ohio, and they need to acknowledge San Francisco, California, because they did not see that coming yesterday.
Well, I did. I did not take San Francisco. I think I told you yesterday I disagreed with that pick, but Cincinnati obviously played a great game. Not a great game, actually. They played a game good enough to win, and they played defensively and kept Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill had to go out and win that game, and he couldn't do it. Joe Burrow's a better quarterback. And they took advantage of the mistakes and scored on 3 turnovers, and Tennessee did not.
Here's the thing. Strengths will get you in the playoffs. Weaknesses will take you out. And Tennessee was pretty inconsistent the whole year. You looked at some of their games. They got beat by New England. They rattled the Rams. They lost to Houston. They lost to Pittsburgh. No consistency. They've been a number one seed I don't know how many times, and they've never advanced. When you looked at Rodgers and the Packers, I thought it was a hype train. They were never tested. The division's been garbage for years, and I will say garbage with a capital G. Rodgers is 0-4 now against the 49ers in the playoffs, and that team will brutally bang you up, run the ball down your throat, and they're playing on house money now.
Well, I got to blame, and we talked about this as far as the San Francisco games, and we'll stay in these two games for a little bit. To me, the 49ers won the football game, but the 49ers won the football game based on two special teams plays, which is fine. All that matters is who wins. It doesn't matter how you do it. But they aren't necessarily the better football team, and the mistakes that Green Bay made in the special teams, they're unforgivable. You can't get a punt blocked with 5 minutes left in the game for a touchdown. It can't happen.
No, you're absolutely right. But the problem here is special teams was an Achilles heel for the Packers the whole year. They never adjusted to that. And when you looked at the 49ers, they're like a snake. They just sit there. And when they strike, they strike. A minute 7, McVay, put all his cards in on the table and thought Garoppolo wouldn't beat them in that last game of the regular season. Garoppolo came down the field and beat them. And then you saw what they did to the Cowboys, kind of sickening in striking distance. And then they did the same thing with the Packers. When that game couldn't get any higher than what it was, and when it was that close, you knew the 49ers are playing their kind of game. Smash mouth football. Contained Smith and Jones and all these guys, bang up Dillon, harass Rodgers, and man, oh man, the 49ers blew a lot of chances to really do something earlier in the red zone. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm taking Garoppolo, and a couple of years ago, I used to say Garoppolo was more suited to serve me lasagna in an upscale San Francisco restaurant. But if they meet the Rams, and I don't think they will, I think it's going to be going down to Tampa. If they do meet the Rams going to have some psychological things facing a 49er team that's beat them 3 straight years, and they're 0-6 against them.
Agreed. Let's stick with Green Bay for a second. I just want to mention Carlos had commented that you're the first guy who agreed with him that they've only benefited from I still got the wrong damn banner up. That they're the only team they've only been where they've been during the Rodgers era because they played in a crappy division. I don't think that's the only reason. You can't pick the division you play in. You can't do your own scheduling like college football. So
well, I totally understand that, but when you look at the division, the Lions are in garbage for years. Poor people in Detroit having to watch that football team for 6 decades. And then you got the Bears that haven't done anything since Rex Grossman. But before that, it was the man-eaters out there, the Bears in '85. The Vikings have been trying to find themselves with the Dennis Green era and Tarkenton and Foreman and all that. So the Packers have taken advantage of this, and it's been a long decade of winning divisions with garbage teams in it.
Well, the Patriots took advantage of it for 20 years with the AFC East. So, I mean, look at it isn't like it's an anomaly and never happened before either.
Right, but if you don't get tested, and when you looked at Tennessee and when you looked at Green Bay, they were not tested teams. Cincinnati was tested. You looked at San Francisco, they were tested. And that's where the advantage lies. People look at wins and losses, but you got to get into the trenches and figure out where these teams are built and how they're coming into the playoffs hot and everything. Yeah. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that must have lost a lot of money on Green Bay yesterday.
Yeah, I'm one of them, so I agree. So, and again, I am not defending the NFC North by any means. Alan talks about the fact that there's, 2 teams are looking for new GMs and coaches, which, I'm just saying it's not an anomaly that teams have good runs because of the divisions they play in. It happened to the 49ers in the 80s. That division wasn't that good. It happened with the Patriots for 20 years. It's happened with the Steelers. Well, the Steelers had some good competition. I shouldn't say that with in the AFC Central in those years. But so I get your point. But let me take you in a different direction. We all know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers, and I know a lot of people do. For me to hear Aaron Rodgers say after that game that he was so proud of his teammates for overcoming all the adversity that they had all year and getting to the playoffs and winning the division and having the number 1 seed. He was so proud of overcoming all of that adversity, all of which was created by Aaron Rodgers. So for him to come out and say that yesterday, I'm thinking you're totally tone deaf or stupid. I don't know which.
Well, you can't teach stupid, first of all. Second of all, I thought it was a conspiracy theory to get these two teams, and State Farm was, sponsoring the Super Bowl. I thought, oh, well, here we go. The conspiracy theories in to get Green Bay and Kansas City at SoFi. But, Rodgers is one of those guys where I've never been a Rodgers guy, and he could be ending up in Pittsburgh next year. Who knows? But I've never been a fan of him. He's just been a drama queen. And the problem is, the advantage favored you. The California teams coming in there were 2-22, and you had the snow, you had the wind chill and everything, and you were just inept. They covered your receivers, they covered your running back, they stuffed the run, they harassed you, and you just couldn't do anything. And for him to say he was happy for what they were, let's face the music here, Mr. Rogers neighborhood. You weren't happy with that. You thought you were going to get past these guys and host the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I just had something I want to add there. What happened to Rodgers? I mean, look as far as this controversy and a drama queen thing, this didn't start. This wasn't in place early in his career. This wasn't who he was until 4 or 5 years ago when he started dating actresses and supermodels and Danica Patrick, and all of a sudden his personality starts to change. Earlier I compared him to a cat I have who's 12 years old and never said. You didn't get a peep out of him for 11 years and 6 months. Now I can't shut him up. He meows and he's into editing. And Aaron Rodgers is like that. He's been quiet and all of a sudden he won't shut up. What?
Well, the problem is when you look at Green Bay quarterbacks, and you could throw your 2 cents in on it, but I look at Brett Favre, I look at Bart Starr. That's the kind of guys I look at. I don't got Aaron Rodgers ahead of those guys by any means. I think he's taking advantage, like we said, of a division. He's taking advantage of other things. He's won the Super Bowls and stuff. But you know what? He's not in Brady's class. And I think what he pulled this year in the whole off season and all that, I don't know what this guy. I don't know if he's gone Hollywood. I don't understand all the actresses dated. I didn't know there was that many actresses that wanted to go out and date a guy from Green Bay in the middle of 20-degree weather out there. So who knows what this guy is doing? Maybe the Jeopardy thing changed his mind. But you know what? I don't got him. And I'll tell you this, out of all the quarterbacks around the league, I don't have him in my top 5, believe it or not.
Well, and I had this argument with Carlos about, MVP consideration. And a couple of weeks ago, he got in a little tiff with a writer who said he wouldn't vote for him because he was a jerk, or one of the biggest jerks in the NFL. And I said that, part of being the MVP is leadership, not just your numbers and stats on the field. It's what you bring to that team. And all he's done brought division to that team and drama to that team. And I would not give him my MVP vote either, because character and leadership means something, and especially at that position.
Well, the MVP of the league, let's face it, is Tom Brady.
Without a doubt.
And everybody can hate Tom Brady, and everybody can say what they want about, when he played for New England and everything. But Tom Brady, by far, what he's done at his age is simply amazing. And the guy just simply raises the bar year in and year out. And he'll throw a commercial here every now and then. Nothing like these State Farm guys. And these State Farm guys, one of them's already getting ready for more commercials. The other one will get ready for them tonight.
We'll get into that in a second. Just a couple of comments as we go on. Like Carlos is talking about, I've said that LaFleur's done a great coaching job and he should be considered for coach of the year. Somebody else, and I think it was Alan, said Vrabel should get it. Vrabel's done a great job this year, and I think Vrabel will be the coach of the year. For that team to get the number 1 seed was amazing. Probably the worst number 1 seed in the history of number 1 seed.
I don't know. You got to look at the Bengals, man, and this could be interesting. We could have a rematch of the '80s with San Francisco and Cincinnati, but you know what the Bengals have done? The Bengals, man, are just simply amazing, and they've done wonders there in a short period of time, and Burrow's got the confidence of, taking another team to a national championship if you look at him.
Yeah, not to, and Alan also had mentioned earlier on, I didn't put that comment up while we were talking, but he called for a rematch of the 80s Super Bowl as well. So it would be interesting. And again, there's a lot of coaches that deserve it. I think LaFleur deserves consideration for navigating all the nonsense that went on there this year and getting this team to the record he got. So,
well, I'll tell you one thing. My NFC team's always been the Redskins. Look for Baker Mayfield, the end over there. And in Pittsburgh, I think you're going to see Russell Wilson, could be a Rodgers, or it could be a Carr. One of those three will end up in Pittsburgh.
You're a Pittsburgh fan. You don't want Rodgers there, I don't think. Jeez.
No.
Find yourself in a position to get Pickett in there. I don't know if they can do it, but I don't think he's going that high. So I think they might have a shot at him if they move around a little bit.
Yeah, they might have a Mac Jones type of situation that falls in their lap. Who knows?
Right. Right. Alan, before we get off the Packers, Alan talks about the Packers as a whole are disappointing because they had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks for 2+ decades, probably 3+ decades, I think, if we do the math, Alan, or close to it. And they won 2 Super Bowls. So he's got a great point.
But there's bad cheese. There's bad cheese being recalled in Green Bay this morning.
Let's go to the Cincinnati game a little bit. I mean, to be honest with you, the Titans have 9 sacks. They run for 140 yards. Their best receiver gets 140 yards catching a touchdown, and could have been a game changer if the game went a different way. But they don't win the game because, in my mind, Ryan Tannehill makes some horrendous decisions and costs them that football game. That's not to take anything away from Cincinnati because their defense played very well. Joe Burrow plays smarter. He can't take 9 sacks. He gets sacked 9 times. They're not winning next week, by the way. But, Cincinnati's a great story, as you said before, going to the AFC Championship game for the first time since 1988, I think.
Yeah.
Great story. And what are your final thoughts on that?
Well, let's face it. When you look at the numbers, 9 sacks that Tennessee put on them, and then you look at the 3 interceptions on the other side of the coin, you think the 9 sacks would overshadow that, but definitely not. The other way, the 3 interceptions were more horrific than the Tennessee recording the 9 sacks and basically containing Henry. So, Tannehill, you're going to find the quarterbacks that want it more, that will step up. When you get through all the exuberance and all that and the cold and all that, you're going to find guys that want to play and guys that don't want to play. Yeah. And I think what happened is Burrow knows what they're doing. There's another team playing on the house money, and this is going to be interesting because they don't care either. So you got 2 teams yesterday that moved on that really don't care, and people better beware. You adjust the mirrors on these guys.
It's for my money. The most dynamic player I've seen so far in the playoffs has been Jamar Chase. I didn't rank him as high as, say, Devontae Smith before the draft. I watched this guy now play up close the last 2 weeks, and it doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. It didn't last week, but he had a huge impact on that game last week, and he certainly did yesterday. He took that 1-yard hitch, and he just made 2 guys out who basically tackled themselves for the Titans and ran, made it a 40-yard gain instead of a 1-yard gain. Great player. He's a game changer.
Is it me or is it everybody else might be seeing the same thing? Don't the Tennessee Titans have the worst helmets and uniforms? They look like space cadets at Star Wars or something at Disneyland.
Yeah,
What's with these uniforms, man?
I've never been a big fan of that. A lot of teams are starting to go with too much. I don't know what they're looking at, It's starting to look like semi-pro football teams in some cases,
Yeah, I know the USFL is starting. I'm excited for the Pittsburgh Maulers.
Well, we're going to have that conversation at some point. I've wanted to get into that, but I got to do a little more research and see who's going to be playing there. I know they got some good coaches, but we'll bring that up, once we get through the NFL season. They're going to be a spring league, which is the smartest thing they did. The original USFL was fairly successful and might have made it if they didn't try to go to the fall. So we'll get into that at another time. Let's talk about today's games, Mark. We'll start with Tampa Bay and the Rams. I know you're going to pick against the Rams just because it wouldn't matter, if they had all Hall of Famers. I don't think you could possibly bring yourself to pick them to win a game. But I'm with you. Tom Brady is going to be the difference in this game. The only way the Rams can win this game is to really rattle Tom Brady and do it early, get in his face. It's happened before, and I'm not saying it won't happen today. But if this game is close and it comes down to which quarterback can perform best in a pressure situation, I will put my money on Tom Brady from now until the end of my time.
Well, let me put it this way. I always tell the LA guys, the LA faithful across the board is just be content where you are here in life. You're a bridesmaid. Stay where you are at second. The second best team is not bad. You just stay where you are. You got it situated. When you try to move up, problems arise. I've heard the slogans all in. I've heard all this rigmarole out here, and we got ripped off, and with this and that and that. Just be content where you are. You're a bridesmaid. Stay where you are. And today we'll find out where they are again, because Shaq Barrett and the boys are coming, and they got the most blitz defense in the league. Brady gets rid of that ball real quick. They love to run the ball with Fournette and Bell. They're going to run the ball down the Rams' throat. Rams got some problems. Stafford, all I hear out here is Stafford beat them in week 3. The Buccaneers didn't really care if they got beat in week 3. When it counts, Tom Brady steps up, and Matthew Stafford, I don't think has it with 2 straight weeks to do something. Let's face it, guys. What have the Rams done here? Let's lay the whole thing down. They beat an Arizona team in December on a Monday night where the Cardinals were fumbling the ball left, which, it looked like a cartoon. Seattle came in the following week in the SoFi. They got penalties called against them that were kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Including the pass interference. The Rams go to Minnesota. Minnesota basically gave them the game. The Ravens gave them the game. Only till the 49ers came in there, played them toe-to-toe, and really, made the Rams flinch that the Rams lost. And then the Cardinals come back for a playoff game, and they weren't even ready. Let's face it. Kyler Murray's not a quarterback. And Kingsbury and these guys snuck up on the league, running off to 6-0 or whatever it was, 7-0. They just snuck up. They weren't the right team. So the Rams really, when they have to face a team that is going to put them in their place, this is what ends up happening. All I keep hearing is Tampa Bay's this. We beat Tampa Bay. Let's see if you can beat Tampa Bay when it counts. I don't think you can.
Yeah, I got a feeling in my mind again, because they do look. The Rams have a tremendous pass rush, and they're going to put some pressure on Brady. But I got to believe that Brady and Arians and Byron Leftwich have been working on some plays to use that pass rush against the Rams and take advantage of it with some screen passes and some other things we haven't seen yet. And again, in my mind, until I see differently, you got to beat Tom Brady before I'm going to pick.
Well, not only that, Sean McVay is going to have tryouts tomorrow. He's going to try to put his best foot forward. He won't, call Matt Stafford, and he'll be looking for another quarterback. And I will tell you this: if the Rams do lose this game, there's going to be a short leash for Sean McVay next year.
I don't know. Well, you may be right. I mean, again, people get impetuous, and when it comes to football, you win now or you're gone. We don't get a lot of time to build winners. So, and when I say winners, not just teams that get to the playoffs yearly, but also win championships. And if you don't win championships, You're not around very long. That's just the way it works.
Well, and not only that, if you're looking at what the Rams have accomplished. If you want to call, say, well, he's come there and he's won 3-1 of his games. The bottom line is you're all in for the last 2 seasons and you haven't got to the Super Bowl to win the damn thing. So they haven't won anything in 70 years in LA. I think the trend continues.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the Buffalo, which may be the best game of the entire weekend. I think it will be. I'm looking at something like 38-35 in overtime. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills because even though I'm predicting them to give up a bunch of points, the defense of the Buffalo Bills is statistically at least ranked number 1 against number 27. I think the Bills' momentum from last week with 7 for 7 and setting a NFL record for going 7 for 7 on touchdown drives. Other than them kneeling at the end, obviously.
7-1 odds I had.
It's going to carry
for the Steelers.
Yeah. What? Say that again.
I had 7-1 odds with the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. And man, I thought I had in the bag. The first quarter 0-0. The Steelers take the lead 7-0. The roof falls in. They couldn't stop Mahomes. And Mahomes took advantage of that porous defense the Steelers put out there. Big Ben, kept throwing to his receivers. They kept dropping it. Tomlin was inept coaching. The Steelers laid an egg. Everybody congratulated Big Ben. But you know what? Let me tell you something. The Buffalo Bills aren't the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they know what they're playing for. And I will take Josh Allen any day of the week over Patrick Mahomes. I've always said they've got the weapons. They destroyed New England on those drives that you alluded to, and they will go into Kansas City. They'll enjoy the barbecue food and beat the hell out of this team.
Yeah. So you don't think it'll be a close game?
No, I don't. I think Buffalo wins this. It's going to be at least by 20. They're going to send a clear-cut message to Kansas City. This will be the beginning of the end. I said it, and you know where I lie on it, and I won't. I said the Chiefs won't be back to the Super Bowl earlier in the year on these shows. If for 5 years you won't see the Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl. So I like the Bills and the Bengals to mix it up in Orchard Park, and I like San Francisco to go to Tampa.
Well, why don't we play a little? We'll give you one lock, one surprise, but it doesn't have to be for this week. For the remainder of the playoffs, it can be somebody getting a Super Bowl, somebody winning. I'm going to give you my lock. Tom Brady wins his eighth Super Bowl ring, and then don't be surprised when he walks away. So you got both in one.
I think you know what? I like that too. I like Tampa. But don't be surprised if Buffalo wins the Super Bowl. A lot of ineptness over the years, and I feel bad for the Thurman Thomases and the Jim Kellys of the world. But you know what? I think Buffalo has a chance to really, get past all them negative vibes. And I would be a bit surprised if the Bills Mafia moves forward and celebrates at SoFi Stadium. So that's where my thing lies. The lock, I think, is Tampa. But don't be surprised if Buffalo wins the Super Bowl.
Interesting. Alan has brought in a don't be surprised if the Bengals and the 49ers get to the Super Bowl and the Bengals finally get revenge for all the pain Joe Montana caused them in 2 previous Super Bowls. So that would be interesting. And I will tell you this, Alan, and I think Mark will agree based on his previous comments, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that will happen. And this is similar. These teams came out of nowhere in the 80s when they played. In the early 80s, both these teams.
Yeah, Icky Woods, man. You remember Icky Woods?
Yep. Oh.
It's going to be interesting.
I'm going back before Icky Woods. I'm talking about the 80 Super Bowl with Montana's first Super Bowl and Kenny.
Yeah, when the Bengals, well, even before that, they had Bengals written on their helmets.
Not yet. They'd just gone to the stripes maybe that year, or maybe a couple years before, but they'd just gone to the stripes before that. They had some good football teams in the 70s, but they couldn't get past the Steelers.
Kenny Anderson, I remember, yeah.
Paul Brown, Paul Brown founded that franchise.
And then they had teams, but they had all the prison atmosphere there, where they had the Steelers beating the playoff game, and they just what was his name? The coach, Marvin Lewis.
Yeah,
was running that renegade prison atmosphere where they had the talent, but they just couldn't. They did a lot of dumb things back then.
Right, agree. Listen, before I let you go, we got 2 minutes. Let's say I'm going to ask you to give me a little more opinion on what I just said about the Hall. They're going to announce the Hall of Fame vote on the 25th. It's already been done. The votes were all in on the 31st of December. Last year for Clemens, last year for Bonds, last year for Schilling, last year for Sosa. I say Bonds and Clemens should get in and put warts and all in there, what they did. I don't think Schilling is Hall of Fame worthy, but I think he's being kept out for the wrong reasons, his political beliefs. And I think Sosa doesn't belong in at all because all his numbers were steroid induced. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. I definitely agree with that. I think Schilling, he didn't burn a bridge with the whole committee. He blew up the bridge.
Yeah.
But Barry Bonds needs to go. That was the one guy that they took players away from him left and right over the years in San Francisco. and he single-handedly was a runaway train. They can call him the lone wolf, but man, oh man, how many people went to see him in batting practice? I was blessed enough to interview this guy. Great guy. I thought, maybe they helped being the Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah.
But I love the guy dearly. I think he belongs. What Clemens did was amazing. You're right. I don't know about Sosa. It was a nice run with him and McGuire across the country with the home runs, but those two other guys need to be in there.
All right. Well, Mark, give us a little pitch for this week. Sal was in earlier and gave a little pitch for the radio show, but you can feel free to do the same, or if you got something else.
Well, I'm feeling good, man. I'm part of a Tampa show with Peter Blake. We got to get you down there on Wednesday night, Tampa TV and everything. And then Thursday, we got Danette May, Joey Buckholz on the Liberty Bell Smack. And next Saturday, or this Saturday, I believe it's James Donaldson coming in on his podcast with Lenny Wilkins.
Oh, nice. That's a nice show right there.
Yeah.
That ought to be cool. So
Lenny Wilkins.
So you guys.
We got to get you into Philly, baby. When are you going to enjoy some cheesesteaks to Rocky statue and running up them steps in Philly?
I'm gonna call Marianne soon. I promise. My schedule's starting to ease up a little bit in my real world job. I promise I'll get to her soon. And maybe when I'm on, I'll have to come down live so I can get some cheesesteaks and bring them back for Rick Sherlock.
There you go. He's gonna send the messenger to pick up the steaks. I love you, brother. Wednesday, I know we're on, and then next Sunday.
Wednesday with the college, we're calling it the college sports huddle for the remainder of the basketball season. We're going to talk a lot of basketball, so bone up. We got a lot to cover on Wednesday night. Thanks for coming in today, Mark, and enjoy.
I love you, brother. Thanks for everything.
Enjoy the games. Have a great one.
Thanks.
Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. Always like to have Mark in, interesting opinions, and watch. He's got stuff going on all over the place between his Mancini Media and the podcast that he produces, and then his shows out of Philadelphia. Great guy. And I see Alan saying he's got some friends that are friends of friends of the Tampa Bay staff, that this will be Tom Brady's last year. I don't doubt it, Alan, but I've heard this refrain before for about the last 7 years anyway, if not longer. Guys, what the hell? We got a little wrong music on there. Guys, I'm going to get out of here so that we make sure we go under the 2 hours, because I can't share the show to Roku unless I'm under 2 hours. Guys, it's been a great show today. Thanks for your comments. We covered a lot of ground, a lot of great opinions out there. Whether I like them or not, you got to bring them. You're entitled to your opinions. I'm entitled to mine, and often I don't agree with you guys, but here we are. It's another Sunday with football, the divisional rounds. Let's go Bucks. Let's go Bills. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, right here in Northeast Streaming Sports and Roku. See you next week. I'll see you Wednesday, actually.